Well, it's the 1st of April today, and I'm promising no April Fool's Day stuff from me. I'll leave that to the revenue, yeah? No, let's be serious. It's the 1st of April today. It's glorious weather outside there. Hamilton won the Grand Prix the other night. Federer won his 101st title. I suppose it's time for another one. My In Practice blogs. Well, in the last month, we've had two big reports come out, which are very, very interesting for different reasons. But both of them are a similar message that we accountants had better keep our eyes and ears open and keep our noses to the grindstone, as it were, because I think HMRC and others are going to be coming looking at us. The first one I thought was interesting was HMRC produced a report wonderfully entitled Tackling Tax Avoidance, Evasion and Other Forms of Non-Compliance. Within that report, they rattle on again about the tax gap and how much money we're losing on the tax gap. And I repeat, their inference was that income tax, national insurance, capital gains tax, apparently 16-17 tax gap, losing 13.5 billion. They then go on to break that down. And within the report, the first thing they go on about is MTD. Because apparently there's too many errors and carelessness is the principal reason while they're losing this revenue. And of course, then what happened? End of the month, we find that MTD FB has been pushed back into the long grass to at least a starting point of April 21. So if they genuinely, one has to question and say, if HMRC genuinely believe these tax gap figures, if they genuinely were of the opinion that this MTD FB strictures they were going to bring in was genuinely going to reduce this tax gap, you'd think they'd fight tooth and nail to keep it on schedule, wouldn't you? To simply push it back, literally just not so much heralded as pushed out in the written statement as part of the spring update, shows that they really haven't got the faith in the MTD procedure, in their own ability to deliver it. And one has to question if they genuinely believed that it was down to this amount of carelessness and error, and that this way MTD-FB was going to cut that down, they most certainly should have been fighting tooth and nail to keep it on track, not just let it go. Now, I know they've got other things on their mind, but let's be 100% honest. If they believed this was right, they would not have simply pushed it into the long grass. The second report I want to briefly discuss today was brought out by OPBAS, that's the Office for Professional Body Anti-Money Laundering Supervision, OPBAS, and it was entitled Anti-Money Laundering Supervision by the Legal and Accountancy Professional Body Supervisors. It's one heck of a report. It's the very first report. Those of you, I think you should be aware by now that OPBAS is the body that's sitting over the top of our professional bodies, and they're looking at their oversight and what they're doing in terms of money laundering. And this is the very first report that they have brought out. I just want to highlight a couple of things that they've said, which make you sit back and think, really? Just a couple. Here's one. 91% of relevant professional body supervisors were not fully applying a risk-based approach. So here we are, risk-based approach is what they're pushing, is what you should be doing. And they're saying here, OPBAS, that the professional bodies aren't even applying it to themselves, which is a tad surprising, isn't it? It goes on. 23% of relevant professional body supervisors undertook no form of AML supervision. None? It adds, 18% of relevant professional body supervisors had not fully identified their supervised population. So they don't even know who they're supervising, it would appear. The last bit is a couple of bits on this last one that I just want to mention, pulled straight from the report. It says 86% of relevant professional body supervisors prefer to offer support and guidance to members to improve their AML compliance over an extended period rather than issue a penalty. And finally, I'll finish on with this one, which I think is very disconcerting. 92% of accountancy professional body supervisors expressed concerns about taking robust action if this would damage their ability to attract or retain members. Now, this is it's quite a lengthy report, and you know, at first read, it really is very damning. Now, I appreciate there's not that many, so when you look at percentages, it sort of skew whiffs the numbers. But for someone to sit down and write that, I feel sure the professional bodies are going to have a go and come back on this. I don't know. What do I know? But, I mean, as an outside, looking in as an accountant in practice, all this tells me is to be very, very careful as to what is going on, because any minute now, our professional body supervisors must, I would have thought, react to this. And the best way they're going to react is to ratchet up all their inspections, ratchet up the work they're doing, ratchet up the fines and the penalties, etc., etc. So we seriously need to be on our guard about this, don't we? We really do. I'm going to finish and say that, you know, so amazing was this report, so damning was this report, that it's going to feature in my next video blog that we'll be putting out, my next webinar at the tail end of this month in April. I'm going to get some people in to sit down and discuss this and how it's going to impact on us. So keep your eyes open for that. It's going to be towards the end of this month, and we'll be discussing money laundering in this case in particular. So keep your eye open for that, and hopefully you'll join me when we'll go into this report in a lot more detail and flesh out how we see this is going to impact on accountants.